From MTN News, you're watching Montana This Morning.
Small businesses across the state of Montana are preparing to apply for their PPP loan forgiveness. I'm Gabby Crevitt with more details on that process coming up.
Butte Silver Bow new Chief Executive J.P. Gallagher.
Well, good morning, Southwest Montana. It is 6:30 on this Thursday. Chet Lehman, Holly Brantley, Matt Elwell with you here. A beautiful last couple of days. It feels like it's the waning days of beautiful weather. We just know winter's around the corner, and maybe the corner's closer than we thought.
That's why I've got this.
You have the shawl all morning long.
It's going to get cold.
It is going to get cold. She didn't have it wrapped around her feet this time. She has boots on.
That's right. And it looks like they're padded boots. So
they look good.
Nice.
They are.
Warm.
These are much better than those things I had on yesterday.
I think our biggest struggle is if you are going to get outside and do some last-minute yard work, don't bother with the leaves.
Good call.
Yep.
Good call.
Tip. Fun fact.
Pro tip number 243. Temperatures this morning into the 40s. It is going to be a pretty mild start to the day, but along with the warm temperatures, we have red flag warnings. That means windy conditions, low humidity, and very dry across the area. We do have a little extra cloud cover to start the day. Our temperatures holding into the 60s across most of the area through the afternoon. We are expecting to see a big change in our weather pattern as we get closer to Saturday and Sunday. We're going to break it all down for you coming up from the Billion Auto Group weather patio in just a little bit.
All right. Thank you, Matt. The Small Business Administration's Paycheck Protection Program is a loan that helps businesses keep their workforce on payroll during the COVID-19 pandemic.
MTN's Gabby Crevitt has the latest on how small businesses in Montana can apply for loan forgiveness.
Around 24,000 small businesses across the state of Montana applied for a PPP loan through the SBA, injecting around $1.8 billion of capital into those businesses. Now many of those businesses are starting to apply for loan forgiveness. Across the entire state of Montana, Main Street certainly looks different now than it did in late March and early April of 2020. Many small businesses were forced to close temporarily because of the stay-at-home directive and have since had to adjust operations to keep in line with COVID-19 safety precautions. Congress responded by allocating hundreds of billions of dollars to support small businesses through the CARES Act, and many Montana businesses took advantage of the opportunity.
The Paycheck Protection Program emerged basically in early April. It was part of the CARES Act, and the intent was to help small businesses keep their employees on the payroll, keep their staff on throughout the COVID pandemic.
Now many of those businesses are starting to apply for loan forgiveness.
Businesses had to spend their funds on certain eligible costs, payroll, mortgage, rent, utilities. And if they do that, the loan is to be forgiven.
73% of small businesses in Montana that took advantage of the PPP loan borrowed less than $50,000, meaning the process to apply for forgiveness should be more streamlined. For loan forgiveness, small businesses must work with lenders to show how they spent funds.
You need to provide documentation of what you spent those funds on. So if it's payroll records, tax forms. If it's rent, it may be bank statements, copies of canceled checks.
And if businesses did not spend their funds on eligible expenses,
they would then begin repaying that loan to the lender in accordance with the terms of their loan agreement, which was either a 2-year or 5-year term.
Reporting in Bozeman, Gabby Crevitt, MTN News.
6:33 now on the national scene as we await results in the presidential race. Republicans in Congress appear poised to stay in control of the U.S. Senate, at least for the moment.
Our Joe St. George with a look now at the significance of that development for us.
Here on Capitol Hill, a lot of Republicans are actually quite surprised with the outcome of the 2020 election. Not only have Republicans picked up seats in the House, Senator Mitch McConnell, the senator from Kentucky, won re-election and appears to be poised to remain in charge of the U.S. Senate regardless of who wins the White House. Even though Democrats had key pickups in Arizona and Colorado, it was not quite the Democratic wave that a lot of insiders were predicting here in Washington, D.C. Why is control of Congress so significant? Well, whoever wins the White House needs Congress to pass bills, confirm judges, and if a Democrat wins the White House but Republicans are in charge of the Senate, for instance, not much will get done in our nation's capital. Again, still a lot to be decided, still a lot of votes to count, but Republicans are actually quite pleased with the 2020 results, at least when it comes to the building behind me here in Washington. On Capitol Hill, I'm Joe St. George.
Governor-elect Greg Gianforte isn't wasting any time getting ready for his incoming administration in 2021. On the day after winning election as Montana's first Republican governor in 16 years, Gianforte named former Speaker of the House Mike Milburn as the chairman of his transition team. Most recently, Milburn has been working as chief of staff for one of the men that Gianforte defeated in the Republican primary for governor, Attorney General Tim Fox. Milburn says voters gave Gianforte a clear mandate to carry out his positive vision and priorities for the state. He says he'll help lay the foundation for new Gianforte administration that will lead Montana's economy comeback. Gianforte must name a new cabinet whose members will direct a dozen state agencies. Milburn served as Speaker of the Montana House in 2011 and is a rancher, a longtime pilot from Cascade. Gianforte defeated Democrat Mike Cooney on Tuesday by 12 percentage points.
In Mining City headlines, voters in Butte Silverbow decided Tuesday on new leadership to run their county in the chief executive's race. Butte's Parks and Recreation Director J.P. Gallagher defeated incumbent Dave Palmer by getting 59% of the vote to become the new chief executive. Gallagher said he's looking forward to his new role in the county.
And I'm going to work closely with Dave Palmer, and what a gentleman he's been throughout this whole process. And he called me and congratulated me about my victory, and it was a pleasure to run a campaign against somebody of that caliber.
Now, Palmer was defeated after serving one term as chief executive. Gallagher will take over in January.
Well, Montana voters gave their clear backing to legalizing recreational marijuana in the election.
But the state legislature may still put its own stamp on the program before any commercial sales begin.
MTN's Jonathan Ambarian talked to lawmakers about what they'll be looking at in the next session.
According to supporters of Initiative 190, now that Montana voters have approved recreational marijuana, legal sales could begin as soon as February 2022. But there's still an open question whether Montana lawmakers will make changes to the new statute before those provisions can go into effect. As the results came in Tuesday night, I-190 consistently led by a substantial margin, including narrow leads in Republican-leaning counties like Ravalli and Flathead. Some in the Montana legislature have already indicated they're interested in taking a look at marijuana laws during next year's session. Last month, State Representative Derek Skees, a Republican from Kalispell, requested a bill that would repeal I-190. But he told MTN after seeing the wide support for 190, he's not interested in moving forward with it.
Pretty much the will of the people, man, and I work for them, and so.
But Skees says he's still concerned about the health impacts of making marijuana more available, and that the revenues supporters expect may not materialize. He said he wouldn't be surprised if there is an effort to add more limits.
There's a lot of lessons that we have from the state of Washington and Oregon and the failures of legalizing recreational marijuana, and I hope to use those lessons to help us fine-tune this thing.
Senator Diane Sands, a Democrat from Missoula, is also interested in making adjustments. She says she wants to look at how the money from tax revenue is allocated.
I think marijuana, whatever revenue it generates, should pay its own costs in terms of the negative impacts it's going to have on society, whether that is questions around testing, whether it's job issues, addictions for people who do have addictions to drugs. This is a drug. It does have consequences.
As I-190 was written, it would direct some sales tax revenue to substance abuse treatment, as well as things like conservation programs and veterans services. But the legislature has final responsibility for appropriating money. While the legislature may want to make changes to I-190, some provisions of the law, including legalizing possession and use of small amounts of marijuana, are set to take effect January 1st, before the next legislative session even convenes. In Helena, Jonathan Ambarian, MTN News.
We'll have to see how that all works out with the next legislative session.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, just about 6:39 for you here this morning, and we have more news ahead coming up for you, including how colleges and universities are trying to get more students to enroll, offering tuition cuts. But first, here's a look at what's ahead at 7 on CBS This Morning.
Good morning to you. Ahead on CBS This Morning, it's still too close to call. We'll have the latest from several key states where the votes are still being counted. Pennsylvania could decide who becomes the next president. So we'll ask Attorney General Josh Shapiro when we can expect to receive the final vote tally from his state. Also, while the vote counts continue, President Trump's campaign is launching multiple legal challenges in key battleground states. We'll discuss further court fights that could reshape the results. And Dr. Sue Varma joins us to share a few things we can all do right now to manage any stress and anxiety in our lives from this political uncertainty. Are you feeling a little stressed? Yeah, you are. We'll see you at 7 o'clock on the dot.